Human man's forbidden love with his alien female cousin. The shuttle rattled like a box of loose bolts as it punched through Asterion 4's atmosphere. Kael pressed his hand to the armrest, wondering if the engineers who'd built this craft had studied aerospace dynamics or simply thrown metal together and hoped gravity would be polite. The view beyond the window was no more reassuring. Pale green clouds swirling like they'd been painted by an artist with a fondness for seasickness. He muttered, "If I survive this descent, I'm filing a complaint and a poem." The shuttle lurched and smoothed, the colony rising into view below, domes glittering faintly, stitched across the rocky surface like glass pearls in dust. Each dome pulsed faintly, as though alive, breathing, exhaling warmth into the thin alien air. Asterion 4 looked less like a settlement and more like an experiment in architecture where someone had said, "Let's make homes that resemble giant soap bubbles, but moodier." Kael was still adjusting his harness when the shuttle docked. A voice crackled through the speaker, chipper as if nothing had rattled. "Welcome to Asterion 4. Please remain seated until we finish defying basic physics." He stepped out into the docking bay. The air smelled faintly of metal, ozone, and something floral he couldn't place. The bay floor shimmered with embedded circuitry, glowing underfoot like a runway, guiding him forward. Workers bustled about, humans in dark uniforms, aliens with elongated limbs or scaled hands. Yet no one caught his eye until he saw her. Lyra. She leaned against a railing with the casual grace of someone who knew the room was already watching her. Her features could have passed as human at a distance, but up close, the differences were undeniable. Her ears arched long and elegant, tapering like sculpted crescents, catching the docking bay lights. Her eyes gleamed silver with flecks of violet, a palette no human iris had ever managed. She wore the standard colony jumpsuit, though somehow she made it look like a deliberate choice rather than a bureaucratic necessity. Kael froze. Cousins reunited, yes, technically true, though the family tree resembled more of a hedge, half human, half alien, tangled together in confusing directions. He cleared his throat and tried for casual. "You know, the Interstellar Guidebook said nothing about cousins standing around looking like they stepped out of a recruitment poster for mysterious alien elegance." "I want my credits back." Lyra smirked, the corners of her lips lifting. And the same guidebook must have omitted the part about human cousins arriving with hair flattened by re-entry turbulence. It's a bold look. Very aerodynamic. He ran a hand over his head and sighed. "Perfect. Day 1, and already my hair has betrayed me." The tension between them cracked, softened by laughter that echoed faintly in the chamber. For a moment it was just two relatives reuniting after years. No whispers, no forbidden undercurrent, until Kael's stomach did a ridiculous somersault. He decided not to mention it. They walked together out of the bay, their footsteps lighting the floor panels as though the colony itself wanted to announce their path. Outside the docking sector, the domes revealed their strangeness more vividly. Transparent walls flexed as if they were lungs. Structures within grew upwards in spirals, alive with vines that glowed a soft blue. Drones hummed through the air, carrying crates, bickering in metallic tones. One buzzed close to Kael's ear, muttering, "Cargo lane violation detected. Or maybe not. Processing. Please stand still while I panic." Then it zipped away. Kael chuckled. "I see the AI upgrades are as stable as my shuttle ride." Lyra tilted her head, ears flicking. "They say the drones develop personalities over time. This one seems to have chosen neurotic librarian." "Fitting," Kael replied. "I attract librarians, apparently." They wandered deeper into the colony. People greeted Lyra with nods and small smiles, their eyes flicking curiously toward Kael. He felt like he had landed not just on a new planet, but inside a story he wasn't sure he was supposed to read. Lyra noticed his unease, her expression softening. "Don't mind them," she said. "They gossip about everything. Last week, there were rumors the hydroponic tomatoes were plotting rebellion." Kael arched an eyebrow. "Were they?" "They glowed redder than usual, but I think it was just fertilizer." They both laughed, the sound bouncing against the transparent dome walls. Humor became their lifeline, something to clutch while the air between them thickened with something unsaid. Kael caught himself, studying the way her ears shifted slightly when she laughed, the faint shimmer along her cheekbones. He reminded himself firmly, family. Complicated family, but still family. Lyra gestured toward a crystalline structure rising in the dome's center. Come on. If you're here to explore, you might as well start with the singing caves. Singing. You'll see. But I should warn you, sometimes they hum off-key. If you're expecting galactic opera, prepare for disappointment. He grinned. After that shuttle ride, I'll take any performance that doesn't involve screaming metal. They moved toward the glowing spiral towers, their shoulders brushing briefly as they walked. The contact was small, accidental, but Kael felt it burn longer than it should have. He looked away quickly, focusing on the architecture that pulsed faintly with its own heartbeat. And yet, even as he forced his thoughts toward duty, exploration, the mission he was meant to pursue, his mind kept circling back to Lyra, to her long ears catching the dome's glow, to the laughter that cracked through tension, to the way her presence made the alien world feel suddenly less foreign and infinitely more dangerous. The colony's air tasted sharp and electric, as though the world itself knew something forbidden was beginning, and chose to stay quiet, at least for now. Kael nearly tripped on the uneven glassy path, as Lyra tugged him toward the caves. The colony's interior shifted with each step. Walls reshaped themselves like liquid crystal, adjusting to airflow, temperature, or maybe just their own alien whims. Kael muttered, "This place feels less like architecture and more like living inside someone's mood swings." Lyra smirked. "That's Asterian for you. Half biology, half engineering, all temperamental. You'll get used to it, or not. Either way, the walls don't care." They reached the edge of the dome, where an arched passageway led into a tunnel of glowing stone. The hum of colony noise faded, replaced by faint vibrations rising through their boots. Lyra pressed her palm against the wall, and the stone pulsed back, like a creature acknowledging her. Kael stepped back. "Okay, I know the guidebook said singing caves, but I didn't think the walls would greet us." "They're polite," Lyra said, grinning. "Much more than most visitors." Kael placed his hand cautiously on the wall. Nothing happened. He frowned. "Guess it doesn't like humans." Lyra tilted her head. "Or maybe you're just too stiff. Try again. Pretend you're greeting a friend, not checking a data console." Rolling his eyes, Kael patted the wall as if it were a pet. This time the cave let out a soft vibration, a low hum that rose into a wavering note. The sound filled the tunnel until it felt like the air itself was vibrating. Kael blinked. "Great. Now the rocks think I'm a musician. Any chance they do requests?" Lyra chuckled, her ears twitching with delight. "Not unless you want an alien rendition of Staticus in D minor." The deeper they went, the more the walls sang. Every touch set off ripples of sound, overlapping into chords that weren't quite harmonious, but oddly soothing. Kael tried different patterns, tapping his fingers. The cave responded with tones like laughter. He grinned. "I've officially found my band. Just me and the geological choir." Lyra leaned against the wall, listening. "You're terrible at rhythm." Harsh review from someone whose ears double as tuning forks. "Exactly why you should listen to me." Their banter echoed with the alien melodies, filling the chamber with something that felt less like tension and more like play. Kael caught himself smiling too easily, the kind of smile that sneaks past defenses. He forced his eyes toward the ceiling, where glowing crystals dangled like icicles. Some of them pulsed with faint blue light, others with green. It reminded him of starlight trapped underground. "Don't stare too long," Lyra warned. "Some visitors say the crystals trick your sense of time. You look up for a moment, then realize you've lost an hour." Kael squinted. "That explains why your messages always took weeks. You weren't avoiding me. You were hypnotized by glowing stalactites." "Exactly," she said dryly. "It had nothing to do with you writing letters about the nutritional content of your rations." He laughed. "Hey, those rations kept me alive. You should be grateful for my detailed reports on the joys of powdered stew." They both laughed, the sound mingling with the cave's song until it felt like the walls themselves joined in. Further along, the tunnel opened into a wide cavern. The ground shimmered like it was dusted in starlight, and a pool of liquid reflected the ceiling's glow. The water rippled without cause, sending distorted light across the chamber. Kael crouched beside it, peering in. His reflection wavered, then shifted, not his face, but something older, sharper alien. He jerked back. Okay, either this pond just insulted my looks, or it's haunted. Lyra knelt next to him, her reflection equally distorted. It's normal. The water shows fragments of ancestry, like a memory echo. Don't take it personally. Kael huffed. Great. A pond that doubles as a family tree. I was hoping for a drink. She dipped her fingers in and flicked water at him. Droplets glowed faintly as they hit his jacket. There. Now you're officially part of the ancestry display. He wiped his sleeve, grinning. Thanks. I always wanted to be a walking genealogy chart. The laughter faded into quiet, though not uncomfortable. They sat side by side, the pool shimmering before them. Kael caught the way Lyra's silver-violet eyes reflected the cave's glow, brighter than the crystals above. He reminded himself not to linger too long on that thought. The stillness broke when a cluster of drones buzzed into the cavern, their lights flashing erratically. One stuttered out. Unauthorized cave entry. Or maybe authorized recalculating. Another scolded it. Stop doubting yourself. They're clearly unauthorized. Or maybe not. Kael raised an eyebrow. You didn't tell me the caves came with neurotic chaperones. Lyra sighed. They're supposed to monitor seismic activity. Mostly they just argue. One drone hovered close, scanning Kael's face. New arrival detected. Probability of causing trouble, 87%. Kael grinned. Wow, you're good at predictions. The drone beeped indignantly. It was a compliment, Kael added. Lyra swatted the drone gently aside. Ignore them. They think everyone's suspicious. Kael leaned back on his hands. Good to know I blend right in. They lingered until the hum of the crystals faded into the rhythm of their own conversation. Stories spilled, childhood mischief, family feasts, tales of alien festivals, where gravity was temporarily reversed just for fun. Kael teased her about floating lanterns colliding midair, and Lyra teased him about his human habit of cataloging every detail like he was preparing a manual for existence. The cave sang around them, but it was their laughter that made the space feel alive. Still, beneath the humor lay something sharper, a current neither could ignore forever. For now, though, the music of stone and the clumsy jokes of two cousins were enough to keep the truth at bay. Family dinners were supposed to be safe zones. Kael learned quickly that on Asterion 4, they were battlefields dressed up with steaming plates of food and glasses that refilled themselves with unsettling eagerness. The long table was set inside one of the colony's main halls, transparent walls revealing twin moons climbing side by side. Beautiful, yes. Peaceful, no. Lyra sat across from him, her posture straight, her expression calm, her long ears betraying tiny twitches whenever one of the elders cleared a throat. Kael tried to copy her composure, but he was a terrible actor. His foot tapped under the table. His fork clinked too loudly. The self-refilling glass splashed water onto his sleeve, like even the furniture wanted to embarrass him. His human uncle, a barrel-chested man with a voice that could double as a faulty engine, leaned forward. So, Kael, you've come to Asterion to focus on exploration. Important work. Vital work. Work that requires a clear head. No distractions. Kael smiled politely. Yes, uncle. Exploration. Cataloging caves that sing, rocks that glow, and drones that complain more than retired soldiers. Laughter rippled around the human side of the table. Lyra's alien relatives, however, did not laugh. One of them, a tall woman with ears longer and sharper than Lyra's, gave a disapproving click of her tongue. Humans always turn sacred phenomena into jokes. The caves are not toys. They are memories of our ancestors. Kael raised his glass in mock salute. Then I owe your ancestors an apology for my lack of rhythm. The caves didn't seem to mind. They sang back anyway. Lyra coughed into her napkin to hide a smile. The conversation shifted like a drone veering off course. A human cousin bragged about terraforming achievements. An alien cousin countered with stories of ancient traditions. Soon the table became a tug-of-war, each side pulling harder, each toast delivered with sharper undertones. Kael chewed in silence, wondering if he could fake a sudden illness. Perhaps he could claim an allergic reaction to smugness. A dish hovered over the table, literally hovered, balanced on a levitation tray. It beeped, announcing, "Nutrient Stew, version 3.1. Improved flavor algorithms installed." The stew sloshed into bowls. Kael poked at his portion. The texture wobbled back at him, almost daring him to eat it. He muttered, "If this starts singing too, I'm out." Lyra leaned over, voice low. "Don't worry. This version only hums quietly if you heat it too long." He snorted into his spoon, earning a glare from his uncle. As the night wore on, subtle became impossible. A human elder jabbed a finger toward Lyra. "And what of the alien influence on our younger kin? Dangerous. Distracting." Lyra's aunt responded, ears stiff with indignation. "It is not alien influence. It is culture, it is history. Perhaps it is humanity that contaminates." Kael tried to cut in. "Contamination seems harsh. I haven't even sneezed on anyone yet." No one laughed. The silence sharpened until it felt like the walls themselves recoiled. Kael caught Lyra's gaze across the table. For a moment the whole room blurred, the elders, the cousins, the glowing moons outside, and it was just the two of them, locked in a shared awareness of how dangerous this was becoming. She lowered her eyes, pretending to rearrange her stew. He stabbed his spoon too hard, splattering glowing broth onto his sleeve. "Careful, cousin," Lyra called lightly, saving the moment with humor. "The stew bites back if provoked." The table chuckled. The tension diffused enough for breathing to resume. But the undercurrent remained. After dinner, Kael slipped away from the hall, weaving through the colony's glowing walkways. He needed air, or whatever passed for air under the domes. He reached the edge of a dome and pressed his palm to the transparent surface, staring at the alien sky. The twin moons hung heavy, casting green and silver light. A soft step behind him. "Lyra, you're terrible at pretending," she said gently. He laughed without humor. "So are you. Your ears twitch every time you're angry." She folded her arms. Then we're both doomed. For a long moment, neither spoke. The colony buzzed in the distance, drones humming, circuits pulsing. But here, at the dome's edge, it was just them. Kael finally broke the silence. "They'll never let this be simple, will they?" Lyra shook her head. "Nothing forbidden is ever simple." He forced a grin. "Good. I hate simple. Makes life boring." She smirked, though her eyes betrayed worry. "You'll joke until the council throws you into exile. Then I'll joke from exile. Someone has to keep the rocks entertained." Her laughter softened the edge of fear. Still, as the twin moons climbed higher, their shadows stretched across the dome floor, entwining like two figures walking side by side. Neither mentioned it, but both saw it. Neither looked away. Kael had been in tight spots before, stuck in malfunctioning shuttles, chased by a sand beast that thought explorers were a delicacy. Once even trapped in a malfunctioning restroom pod that locked him in for 3 hours. But nothing compared to standing in the council chamber with every pair of eyes drilling into him like plasma cutters. The chamber hummed faintly with energy, walls lined with shimmering panels that shifted colors according to the mood in the room. Tonight, the panels pulsed in stormy grays and hard reds. Kael whispered to himself, "Great, even the walls think I'm guilty." A human elder rose, tall and severe. "Kael, you were seen leaving the alien quarter at night. Your boots carried traces of bioluminescent residue. You know the rules." Kael looked down at his glowing boots. "In my defense, the ground was glowing before I stepped on it. I can't turn off physics." A ripple of disapproval passed through the room. Lyra, standing near the alien delegation, shot him a look that said maybe less sarcasm. Her aunt stepped forward, ears stiff, voice sharp. "This is proof for fraternization. The mixing of bloodlines invites chaos. We have traditions to uphold." Kael spread his hands. "With respect, Traditions also once included eating insects as delicacies, and I think we can all agree progress is good. Half the human side chuckled. The alien side did not. Lyra stepped forward suddenly, her voice clear. Enough. You accuse him as though curiosity is a crime. You talk of traditions while ignoring that both our peoples came here to build something new. A counselor slammed a palm on the table. The lights flickered. And what are you building? A bond that defies both lineages? You know what that means. Kael muttered. A lot of angry dinner conversations. Exile, the elder snapped. The word dropped like a meteor, leaving silence in its wake. Kael felt the weight settle in his chest. Exile meant no family, no colony, no home. Just the endless dark. He wanted to argue, but words stuck in his throat. Then Lyra stepped fully into the center of the chamber, her ears trembling with contained fury. If exile is the price for honesty, then I will pay it too. The room erupted in gasps. Kael blinked at her. Wait, you're volunteering for punishment? That's terrible strategy. She smiled faintly. You're not the only one allowed to make reckless decisions. The counselors erupted into argument, voices overlapping, panels flashing in chaotic patterns of red and blue. Kael leaned toward Lyra. Well, we've done it. Unified them in outrage. That's progress. One of the drones hovering near the ceiling beeped nervously. Council dispute escalating. Probability of resolution, 12%. Probability of explosion, 58%. Kael waved at it. Thanks for the vote of confidence. The council finally fell into uneasy silence. The eldest among them, a woman with a voice like rusted machinery, pronounced the verdict. If you defy us, then you are no longer of us. Leave Asterion 4. Never return. The walls pulsed dark, sealing the decision. Kael felt the finality press against his skin like static. Exile. He glanced at Lyra, expecting regret. Instead, she looked calm, almost defiant. When the session ended, they walked together out of the chamber. The corridor stretched long and glowing, their footsteps echoing too loudly. Kael tried to laugh, though it came out hollow. Well, I always wanted to see the galaxy. Just didn't think the invitation would come with banishment papers. Lyra smirked. You'll get used to it. Freedom looks a lot like punishment until you realize no one's watching anymore. They reached the docking bay where their future waited in the shape of a small starship patched together from salvaged parts. The hull gleamed unevenly, as if several designers, with no shared vision, had welded dreams together with spare bolts. Kael squinted. Is that safe? Lyra shrugged. Depends on your definition. It flies. Usually. He grinned despite himself. Perfect. A rebellious ship for rebellious people. They stood for a moment, staring at it. The colony lights glowed behind them, steady and familiar, while the starship lights flickered uncertainly, like a question waiting to be answered. Kael finally spoke. So, cousin, exile partners, how do you feel? Lyra looked at him, her silver-violet eyes reflecting the docking bay glow. Like we've stopped pretending. The words settled between them heavier than any verdict. Kael's chest tightened, but for the first time all evening, it wasn't from fear. Good, he said softly. I was getting tired of pretending anyway. And together, they stepped toward the ship that would carry them into the unknown. The starship coughed to life like an old man, with a chest cold. Kael smacked the console twice, and the light steadied. See, nothing to worry about. She just needs encouragement. Lyra strapped herself into the co-pilot's seat, raising an eyebrow. Encouragement, or a funeral? The ship shuddered, engines whining, but then the floor lifted under them and the colony shrank below, domes glowing faintly against the rocky surface. Kael leaned back, heart pounding, half from excitement, half from terror. Goodbye, Asterion 4. Try not to implode without us. The comm system crackled with static before a voice burst through. One of the drones, of course. Unauthorized departure detected. Probability of crash, 70%. Probability of survival, 30%, plus or minus 30%. Kael grinned at Lyra. Even the drones have faith in us. The drone sputtered, then went silent. The stars opened ahead, infinite and glittering. They drifted for a while, silent except for the hum of the ship. Kael stared out, marveling at the sheer size of it all. He'd spent his life cataloging planets, listing mineral compositions, writing dull reports. But now, with exile stamped across his name, the universe didn't look like data. It looked like possibility. Lyra's voice pulled him back. "You've changed." Kael blinked. "I've changed seats, sure. I'm in the pilot's chair now. Very important role." She gave him a look. "Not that. You used to follow rules, like they were written in your bloodstream. Now you laugh in the council's face." He considered that, then smiled faintly. "Guess I finally realized rules aren't worth much if they keep you from living. Or loving." Her ears flicked, her expression softening. That almost sounded wise. "Who are you? And what have you done with Kael?" "I'm still me," he said. "Just me without the chains." The ship jolted, alarms blaring. Lyra grabbed the console. "Asteroid field. You were supposed to plot a course." Kael squinted at the screen. "I thought those dots were decorative." They dove into the field, rocks spinning around them. Kael wrestled with the controls, while Lyra shouted corrections. A boulder scraped the hull, sparks flashing across the view. Kael yelled, "We're fine. Just polishing the ship with space rock." Somehow, impossibly, they made it through. The alarms went quiet, leaving only their ragged laughter filling the cabin. Lyra leaned back, hair loose, ears twitching. "If exile doesn't kill me, your piloting will." "Then it's settled," Kael said. "I'll put that on my headstone." They drifted beyond the asteroids into a stretch of stars no map claimed. Here, space seemed untouched, raw. Lyra pointed at a faint glimmer ahead, a nebula glowing blue and silver, clouds twisting like living things. "There, a place no one has named yet." Kael smiled, awe creeping through him. "Perfect. No councils, no traditions, no rules. Just us." They set the ship toward it. For the first time since stepping onto Asterion 4, Kael felt light, unburdened. The weight of family expectations, of duty and loyalty, had fallen away. What remained was choice. His choice. Lyra reached across the console, her hand finding his. "You're really not afraid anymore, are you?" He squeezed her hand, steady. "I'm terrified, but I'm not afraid to live with that fear. That's new." Her laughter filled the cabin, bright and unguarded. Behind them, Asterion 4 shrank to nothing. Ahead, the nebula expanded, light spilling into their small cabin until it felt like the universe itself was welcoming them. Kael leaned back, shoulders relaxing. He wasn't the dutiful explorer anymore. He wasn't the exiled mistake either. He was someone who had chosen love over fear, freedom over chains. Someone who finally belonged, not to a colony, or a council, or even a bloodline, but to himself, and to the woman beside him. Lyra whispered, "So where do we go after this?" Kael grinned. "Anywhere. Everywhere. As long as we go together." And with that, the little starship sailed into the light. Two exiles no longer lost, but pioneers of their own story.